Welcome to By the Cottage Hearth with Dana Marie. I'll be taking you through the journey we make as healers, the impact we're yet to make, and the words to use to describe it. Come on in. Hey, welcome back to the Hearth. Today we're going to be speaking with Amy Rose from Vibrations of Light. Amy works with what I would call the up here energy, the spiritual side of energy. So I'm really excited to be talking to her about what it's like working with the intangible rather than having that kind of mainstream tangible side of work when you're talking about your content online, when you're talking about the value of your work online. Hey, Amy, thank you for joining me.
Hi, Dana. How are you?
Good, thank you. It's awesome to have you on today. Right out the gate, I'm going to ask what we consider to be the hardest question. What
Okay.
do you do as a healer?
First of all, I want to say happy day of birth.
Oh, it's my birthday today. Thank you.
Awesome. I hope you're having a good day. So your question was, what do I do as a healer, was it?
Yes.
So I'm a light worker. So I use my extensive extrasensory psychic ability to guide souls through the awakening and ascension journey. So when the third eye cracks open, I guide them through alternative realities and all kinds of things that unfold. And also, I serve people who understand that they are source itself, an extension of source, and they want to express them their higher. They want to express themselves as their higher self in this lifetime. So they know that they don't need to transition or die to go back into source, that they can be their higher self in this lifetime and live on that highest vibrational plane of reality whilst still in their body. And when you live in that space as your higher self, you're living in a source. So in that oneness, source is oneness. So whatever you do, however you live, is an alignment for everyone's highest and best good. There's no separation from that space. So the best life for you is the best for everyone.
For the collective. I love that so much. So what brought you into this very particular way of working? Let's go into your journey to becoming a healer.
Okay. So I've always been spiritual, you could say, but my journey began in religion, and I was a huge seeker. And as a child, I always had that longing, that yearning to go home, that a lot of light workers have. And I just had this strong desire to serve my God. That's what my 10-year-old self would say. I just had yearning, and I didn't understand how, but I just knew I needed to find the right way to do it. So I pretty much moved through so many different religions in my teens and my early 20s. And I just experienced so many different religious pathways, which are beautiful. And then my pivotal moment of awakening was when I was 32, same age as you. Fitting. I went very deep into a meditation. This was back in 2012. And I went really deep into a meditation. I didn't emerge for several physical world days. And in that time, I merged with source and oneness, and I became everything and everyone. And so I kind of begin to tell you what happened during that.
That's an intense experience. It's hard to put words to that. Yeah.
You go into the infinite, and you live all past lives, all future lives, all parallel lives, all multidimensionally, and not just yours, but everyone's, because you are everyone.
Yeah.
And it's and I would just have constant
downloads.
Yeah. Like that. The moment you question, the answer's right there. This went on for obviously many days, and then I wheeled myself back into my body again, and essentially I incarnated again back into this
Into
same,
this body. Yeah.
and I had to relearn how to be in a body again, and it all happened quite quickly, but it did take many years for me to adjust.
Yeah, of course.
Learning to have the human experience again and feeling human, and being able to relate to humans in a very limited
Yeah.
way. So learning how to come down in dimensions to engage, but also because I had become everyone and everything, I was experiencing so much. So the journey in those years was also learning how to have the experience of self, of just myself,
Yeah.
and at will plug in and out of people, which is what I do in my readings. I have empathy to the degree that I can merge with other people's energy and have their experience of reality.
And be able to come back out. And I think that's a really important thing to bring that attention to as well, because I find that a lot of healers, it's hard to know that separation between what you are feeling for self and then what is actually a them thing. Is that something that had through that period come up a lot for you, being able to recognize what was someone else's energy and what was yours?
That happened prior to that experience,
Ah, okay.
when you realize you're an empath, and then you start to understand that, and you're able to start to discern what's yours, what's
Yeah.
not yours. So I had all those experiences before, but this was kind of that enlightenment space where you go into
To
enlightenment.
separate them easier.
Um,
Oh, well, you feel as all anyway, so it's less separation, I guess, after that experience as
I had
well.
no separation, so I had
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
learn to almost like go into the illusion of separateness, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, just pretend, but then
Yeah.
choose that realm. So there is a realm of separateness, and then but know that I am everything, but also, yeah, just have the experience of self, which I can do now. And so I can function in the world better and be human.
Yeah, of
I
course.
can travel up and down dimensions. And so uh, I can help people, and I can go up and down and engage as a
Yeah, of course.
human in everyday
Of
life,
course.
and not
Yeah,
to yeah, not have to absorb everything
coming through.
coming through.
And I know that we've talked about it before. You've got a background in sound engineering as well. Do
I
you
do.
think that that experience combined with the experience you've had now come together, like your perspectives come together from kind of both of those lives almost?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a musician from age 6. I was in a
Yeah.
music family, and then I became a sound engineer, which took me deeper into hearing frequencies within music. So my hearing went into deeper layers, and over those years, and obviously went deeper and deeper. And then that led to the unveiling to myself, awakening me to myself, that I was clairaudient,
Yeah.
um, as well as other senses. But that was my strongest at the time when I had awoken to that. That was in my 20s. And yeah, I feel like that journey of sound, and for many other reasons, being around music is powerful for me. But that definitely led to unveiling
Yeah.
my first psychic sense that I became aware of. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that because looking at the uh physical, tangible ways that your work impacts a person, I think that helps people connect on a almost like layman terms. It's an understanding, it's a scope that they can kind of connect to with your work, even if they don't necessarily understand the higher vibration side of things. I know I've worked with Amy before. It was a wonderful session. I was very comforted when these messages were downloading through Amy. And I think one of the hesitations that light workers and healers have is that they'll come across as too woo. They'll be too like spiritual and too out there. So I love the way that you talk about those vibrations, because it brings it to a almost an understanding I can connect with, and you almost like guide people through the higher self, the higher frequencies, even if it seems a bit unapproachable for those of us who aren't necessarily in those realities and in those realms ourselves. I love the way that you as a guide can hold that space going through that.
Thank you. And I have to say that I work with the angelic realm as well. So I have archangels that make it tangible,
Ah,
because
yeah,
um, prior to that, I was just receiving so much data and it
yeah, of
was
course.
so multidimensional. I couldn't actually do anything with it. So
Mm.
now I connect through them, and then I receive what is relevant and tangible in that moment of the highest vibration,
Mm.
and that's what allows me to bridge up into those higher realms.
I love that so much that you've got that, you've created that support network. Not, I don't even want to say created, it's kind of come to you. You haven't had much of a choice through the experience. But I love that the way you talk about the kind of structure of the way that your work comes through for you, because I can understand even when we were having our session and watching those messages come through, it is a knowing. And I think it's hard to articulate that knowing sometimes. So thank you for that insight as to how it works with your work.
Oh.
What do you find is the most difficult thing when it comes to talking about the work that you do with other people who are maybe new to you?
Um, well, words are infinite, right? So um, when you express words, you're expressing them to your level that you're attempting to express them from, but they can only be received by the level of consciousness of the individual in that they're at
Yes.
a particular
Yeah.
moment, right? And that um, so you know when people say, "Oh, I get it," "Oh, now I get it."
Yeah. That light bulb moment.
Yeah, what's really happening is you're getting it to the next layer of understanding, because understanding the infinite universe or the infinite nature of who you are or whatever you're understanding, everything is infinite. So there's no end to it. So someone over here could say, "Oh, I get it." And then this person could say, "I get it." But the level of understanding would be,
It's different.
yeah. And it's all relative too. So that
Yeah.
from
So
each person.
do you think that the time the person comes into your world, just thinking about it from a healer perspective,
Yeah,
you might have a person come into your world who it's not the right time for them yet, whether that's because of the understanding they have, the self-responsibility that they're willing to take, the experience that they've had. You almost have to meet them at that point of time where they're ready to meet you at that point of time. But then you see the different, I see it as time because that's my understanding. That's the reality that I work through. But you've got all these different aspects that you're seeing a person or where they are.
yes, exactly. That second part of what you said is exactly how it works. So when you live in alignment with your higher self, you're speaking from that space. So there's that trust that what you say will be received by the people at whatever level they're at, right? But in my experience, I don't have people that come and they're not the right fit. I know that
Mm.
when someone magnetizes to me, it's on purpose, and whatever they need is going to come through me. There's a right. So, and like you said, they could be at all different levels. And what happens in my readings is that the reading and the words that are expressed are tailored specifically
Where
for
they
that
are.
person, for
I
where they
love that. I
are.
love that so much. And I think that's really reassuring, especially like for people who are listening, if they're in that stage of their business where they feel like they haven't done the marketing perfectly or they're not saying the right words and they're not doing the right things. Almost leaning into that trust and that idea that when you are living in alignment with self, when you are living in alignment with purpose, the people who are coming into your world are not only the right people to be working with, but those people are in the right stage they need to be to receive the work that you're going to be doing with them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can't force that. There's a lot of I think pressure that you need to get people up to speed almost, and that's where that willingness, that desire to educate. I'm not caffeinated enough today, apparently. There's this desire to educate people as though if you give them enough information, they will understand your work and then they'll be ready to work with you. But that's almost a forcing of the process, and it feels very out of alignment because you're spending so much, unless your job is to educate, let's be real. If that's the job, then that's different. But I think if you're educating or attempting to educate people so much in your content, you're almost trying to force them into that space of being ready to work with you. So it does require a certain level of trust that, like you said, if you are honoring yourself and you're living in alignment with purpose, that those people will come in at the right time.
Yeah, well, it all stems from the intention of what you're creating from, right?
Ah, yes.
And that's the energy that carries through. So is the intention to educate because you feel inspired and you know that you're supposed to in that moment? Or are you thinking about, something out of alignment? Maybe the ego feels, oh, I need to make some money or something, and it's driving from there, or that sense of lack, or it could be like time pressure. I
have a deadline.
in this one lifetime, and everybody has to catch up because the planet's going, falling apart or whatever. But everything is in divine timing. Everything is perfect. All we need to do is live in that space of alignment and allow that light to come out, and it knows what to do, that divinity within us all. And everyone needs to go on different journeys, right? We all go into these dark spaces, and it's all beautiful when you look back of how perfect that journey was.
Yeah. So what would be your recommendation for someone who feels like they are out of alignment? They recognize that it's not quite right. And this is something that I'd gone through with my shame coaching. It was like almost there, but not quite right. What do you recommend that people do when they're in that space to kind of bring themselves back onto that path?
I would just unplug from the mind. Yeah. You come back into presence, right? Peace, presence, in present time, peace and alignment exist. That's where source exists. That's how you come home. And when you go back to that space, you begin flowing, and all those pressures start dissipating, right? So the easiest thing, the thing that's coming to me now, is just to plug into your body. So even if it's just like focusing on the sensation of your hands.
Yeah.
Doing something simple just to come into the body and out of the mind, because it's the mind that's going a little bit crazy now. Identifying that, oh, I'm just attaching to all these thoughts right now. All I have to do is detach, and then I'm back in alignment.
Yes.
Back in peace, back home, back in source. And then whatever thoughts arise from that space will be in alignment.
Oh, I love that so much, because as someone who is neurodiverse, chronic overthinker, I've had to be very intentional when I get caught up in that what if, that future, that past, like living in every other moment except for present moment. So I love the simplicity of that idea of coming back to feeling your body, and once you're in that grounded space, whatever's coming through from that moment. I think that's absolutely a beautiful sentiment. Even if it seems so simple, people think, oh, it's no, it's got to be more complicated than that. It really isn't. It really isn't. That's the mind trying to make it more. Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love that so much.
Totally relate to that for you. Sorry,
you relate to that as well.
Like my healing is all through the mental plane, right? That's my superpower. But yeah, you can easily get caught up there as well.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love that. So one of the things that I ask everyone is, what is your impact or legacy goal? What do you want to leave behind? And I feel for you being coming back into your body and having this kind of drive and purpose behind you, I think your answer would be really, really interesting.
Well, it's actually, I feel like it's quite simple.
Of course it is.
I just want to fulfill what I feel is my purpose, which is doing, contributing to the best of my ability to help raise the vibration of human consciousness, therefore the human experience, and this beautiful planet we live on.
Ugh, that's so pure. Like that is very beautiful. And I think it's important to remember that it is such a personal driving force. It is such a personal driver that when we come back to that, why are we doing what we're doing? Everyone's answer is going to be so different. And if this is like contributing to the collective, if changing vibrations, if that is something that for you is your answer, I want to just mention, don't feel compelled to make it more complicated than that. Like that is enough. And I think looking at the way that I think and that I overcomplicate things for myself, if you know in your heart and in your body that that is the answer, don't feel like you have to make it more complicated than that, because it is such a personal thing. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about that, what the opinion is on that. So thank you for that very honest, very simple and beautiful legacy. I think that's a really important impact that you're here to create.
Thank you, and great advice there. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, it has been absolutely lovely speaking with you. If you want to know more about the readings that Amy does, if you want that guide to be able to help you connect back into alignment and in purpose with your higher self, so you can embody that in the body that you're here in at the moment, you can follow Amy on her social media, her Facebook page. She has wonderful, wonderful information on there that really makes it more approachable, rather than it almost demystifies the way that you can approach this. So that is one thing that I love about your work. Otherwise, thank you for listening and joining us on the Hearth. And it will be wonderful to have you back on as we see your kind of journey develop and your work grow.
Thanks, Dana. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of By the Cottage Hearth with me, your host, Dana Marie. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow on whatever platform you're on to be notified of new episodes. And you can also follow me on By the Cottage Hearth on Facebook and Instagram. Check out show notes for any links or freebie goodies that I might have going at the time. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next episode. Keep healing.